Vivid verses.
The wine glass in my hand had been empty for 3 minutes before I noticed. That's the thing about dinner parties at the Hendersons. The conversation moves at such a clip that you forget to drink, forget to eat, sometimes forget to breathe. The four of us had been coming here twice a month for what felt like a small geological era. Tom poured the wine. Karen made the kind of roast chicken that should be illegal, and the rest of us provided what Tom liked to call the entertainment. Tonight, the entertainment was supposed to be me. So Adrian's been pulling these absurd hours, Karen was saying, leaning across the table toward Meredith. Tom said you looked like a ghost at the office last week. Tom raised his glass in a vague salute. A productive ghost. I started to answer, something non-committal, something to redirect, but my throat felt suddenly tight. The week had been bad, not just busy. Bad in the way where you sit in your car in the parking garage for a full 11 minutes before you can convince your hands to turn the key. I've been carrying it around like a stone in my pocket, and I hadn't told Meredith because Meredith and I had been in a strange place for a while now, and I wasn't sure anymore which version of her I'd get when I opened up. But it was Karen asking, and Tom, people who, theoretically, were our friends. I started. Honestly, it's been a lot. I think I might be a little burned out. There's this thing with, oh God, here we go, Meredith said. She said it lightly. That was the trick of it, always. The lightness. Like she was just narrating the room. Adrian's been auditioning for the role of most overworked man in the world. He's very dedicated to the part. Karen laughed, the polite laugh of a host who senses choppy water and wants to smooth it. I tried again. It's been a rough stretch is all. I haven't been sleeping well and... Babe. Meredith reached across the table and patted my hand. She was smiling. Her eyes were not smiling. Come on. Man up. We came here to have a good time, not to listen to you process. There it is, I thought. Right on schedule. Something inside my chest did a quiet, clean thing. Like a door clicking shut. Not slammed, just shut, with the kind of finality you only really notice when it happens. I noticed. Tom let out an uncertain chuckle. Hey now. What? Meredith said, looking at him brightly. He knows I'm kidding. We're allowed to tease each other after this long. Right, babe? She squeezed my hand. I let her. I was already somewhere else. 12, I was thinking. 12 times. Maybe more. That's just the times I can count without trying. The first time had been at a barbecue 2 summers ago, when I'd mentioned my father's surgery and she'd laughed and told me to man up. It's just a hernia. The second time, 3 months later, at a bar with her cousin, when I'd said I was nervous about the promotion interview. The third time the night her mother had been cruel to me and I'd tried, gently, in the car on the way home, to say that it had bothered me. Man up, man up, man up, like a child's wind-up toy that only knew one phrase. What had it been the first time? I'd flinched. I remembered flinching and then immediately apologizing for flinching because she'd looked offended that I might be offended. Look at that, I thought. Look at what I just noticed about myself. Adrian, Karen, very gently. Are you all right, sweetie? I looked up. I gave her my warmest, most ordinary smile. I have a very good, ordinary smile. People trust it. I'm fine, I said. Sorry. Drifted off. The wine's good, Tom. Right? He said, leaping at the rescue. It's from that vineyard I was telling you about. The conversation moved on. Meredith launched into a story about a coworker. I watched her tell it. I watched the way her hands moved, the way she paused for her own laugh lines, the way she glanced at me at the end of each beat to confirm I was paying attention. I had been paying attention to this woman for a long time. I had been paying her the kind of attention you pay to a difficult weather system, learning its patterns so you could predict the next storm. She doesn't know, I thought. That was the strangest part, sitting there at the Hendersons' dining table with Karen's roast chicken cooling on my plate. She really, genuinely did not know. To her, This was a regular Saturday. To her, she had just told a funny little joke at her boyfriend's expense the way she always did, and her boyfriend had taken it the way he always did, which was to say he had taken it the way a wall takes a thumbtack. She was going to wake up tomorrow morning expecting the same life she had today. I picked up my fork. I ate the chicken. I made the right noises at the right moments. I asked Tom about his renovation. I told Karen the green beans were excellent. I refilled Meredith's wine when it got low, because that's what I always did, and tonight was not the night to start changing my behavior. Tonight was the night to be exactly the man I had always been at this table, so that nobody, not Tom, not Karen, and especially not Meredith, would have any inkling that anything had changed. Because something had changed. Something fundamental. I just needed to keep it to myself until I was ready to act on it. Calculate, I told myself. Don't react. Calculate. Step 1, get through dinner. Step 2, get home. Step 3, get out. The drive home was 40 minutes on the highway and another 10 through the surface streets to our building. Meredith spent the first 10 of those minutes recounting the evening in a loop, the way she always did, narrating it back to me as if to lock in the official version. Karen had seemed tired. Tom had been drinking too much. The chicken had been a little dry, didn't I think? She asked if I thought it was dry. I said it had been fine. She said I always said everything was fine. You okay? She said eventually. You got quiet at dinner. Long week, I said. Don't be like that. Like what? Pouty. Because of the man-up thing. You know I was joking. I kept my eyes on the road. The night had that slick black look the highway gets after a light rain, with the lane markings glow like wet ribbons. I could see her in my peripheral vision, half turned toward me in the passenger seat, waiting. This was the test. This had always been the test, every time. She would say something cutting, and I would react, and she would accuse me of being too sensitive, and I would apologize for being too sensitive, and we would arrive at a kind of negotiated peace where I conceded that I had overreacted and she conceded nothing at all. The shape of the dance was so familiar that my body wanted to start moving even before the music began. Don't, I thought. If I argued now, she would have a fight to anchor herself to. She would call Karen tomorrow and say Adrian made such a scene on the drive home. I don't know what's gotten into him, and the story would calcify. And by the time I made my move, there would already be a framework in place to explain it. He was unstable. He was overreacting. He was being childish. If I argued now, I gave her the script. So I didn't. I know you were joking, I said. Thank you. It's been a long week, I said again. I'm just tired. She softened. I watched it happen out of the corner of my eye, the shoulders dropping, the small satisfied resettling in the seat. Order had been restored. Adrian had agreed to be tired instead of hurt. Adrian had self-corrected. Good, Adrian. You want me to drive? She said. I'm good. Okay, babe. Almost home. Yes, I thought. Almost. I spent the rest of the drive doing math. The kind of math you don't write down. The lease was in both our names, but I'd been the one who'd signed the deposit check for my own account. That was leverage if I needed it, though I didn't think I would. There was a furnished short-term place a coworker had mentioned a month ago, offhand, the kind of place people stay between leases. I had the name of the building. I had savings. I had a gym bag's worth of clothes I could grab without her noticing, plus the suit I'd need for Monday, plus my laptop. The cat was hers, originally, from before me. That simplified things. The art on the walls was hers. The dishes were hers. The couch was ours, technically, but I had never liked the couch. I realized, mentally packing this bag for a long time. Tonight had not assembled the inventory. Tonight had only flipped the switch. When we got to the building, I parked, came around to her side, walked her up the way I always did. She brushed her teeth and got into bed and asked if I was coming. I said I had a couple of emails to send. I'd be in soon. She said don't stay up too late. She turned out the light. I sat in the kitchen with a glass of water and did not send any emails. I waited until I heard her breathing change, the slow, even rhythm she has when she's gone under, and then I waited another 20 minutes after that. Then I went into the closet, and I packed. I packed the way you pack when you're not coming back. Methodically, quietly. 2 shirts, 3 shirts, 4. Underwear, socks. The suit in a garment bag. The good shoes. The bad shoes, because the bad shoes were comfortable. Toiletries from the medicine cabinet. But only the ones that were unambiguously mine, because I did not want to give her any way to claim, later, that I had taken something of hers. Laptop, charger, the external drive with my tax documents. The folder of important papers I kept in the bottom of the filing cabinet. Passport. I worked for an hour. I made 1 trip to the car at 2 in the morning, carrying everything in 2 bags and the garment bag over my shoulder, and the elevator was empty, and the parking garage was empty, and the night attendant didn't look up from his phone. I came back upstairs. I sat at the kitchen island, and I wrote a list on a piece of paper. The list was not for her. The list was for me. It read, mediator, locksmith for the new place. Email HR about the address change. Tell my mother before Meredith tells her first. Block on social. Not yet. Wait until after the mediator. Same with phone. I folded the list and put it in my wallet. Then I made coffee. I drank the coffee. I waited for the sky outside the kitchen window to lighten to that particular pre-dawn gray. And when it did, I picked up my phone and I texted Meredith. The text said, I've moved out. I'm not interested in a discussion right now. I've contacted a mediator. Her name is Frances Odieno. She does relationship dissolutions. Her office will reach out to you on Monday. Please don't come to my new place. I'll send the address to the mediator only. Take care of yourself. I read it 3 times. I considered softening it. I considered the word please. I considered the word babe. I considered apologizing for the abruptness. I sent it as written. Then I put my phone on silent, put it in my pocket, picked up the last bag, and walked out the front door of the apartment I had lived in for the last however many years. And I did not look back because I had been looking back for long enough. The short-term place was on the 4th floor of a building that smelled faintly of new carpet and somebody else's curry. The unit had a queen bed, a desk, a kitchenette, and a window that looked out at the side of another building. It was, I thought as I dropped my bag by the door, the most beautiful apartment I had ever seen. I lay down on top of the comforter with my shoes still on. I had been awake for 26 hours. I did not sleep. I stared at the ceiling, which had one of those popcorn textures that I had been told was a sign of age in a building, and I waited for the feeling I'd been bracing for, the regret, the panic, the grief, to arrive. It did not arrive. What arrived instead was a kind of quiet, the first real quiet I had heard in a very long time. My phone in my pocket was vibrating. I let it. After a while, I took it out and looked. 7 missed calls from Meredith. For voicemails. 16 texts. I did not read them. I did not listen to them. I plugged the phone into charge and went and stood in the shower for a long time. When I got out, I sat on the edge of the bed in the towel, and I went into my phone and I did the thing I had told myself I would not do yet, but I did it anyway because I wanted to know the shape of what I was dealing with. I opened the first voicemail. It was crying, just crying for 32 seconds, and then a wet inhale and Adrian, please call me back. The second voicemail was harder. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what this is. Last night was fine. We had a nice time at Karen and Tom's, and now this? You don't get to do this. You don't get to do this to me by text. Adrian, call me back. Call me back right now. The third one was predictably the one where she had thought about it. Okay, I've been thinking. I get it. I get that you've been stressed. I get that I haven't been the easiest, I know that. The man up thing was, okay, I shouldn't have said it like that, in front of them. That was, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? But this, Adrian, this is insane. This is an insane response. You don't blow up a hole. You don't just leave because of a joke. Please Please call me. The fourth voicemail was the one where she had remembered who she was. You know what? Fine. Fine, Adrian. I called Karen. And you know what she said? She said it was a joke. She said you were being weird at dinner. She said, I stopped the playback. I deleted all 4 voicemails without listening to the rest. I did not open the texts. Karen, I thought. Of course, Karen. I thought about Karen for a minute. Karen who had said, are you all right? Sweetie in that gentle voice, who had clearly seen, but who would now, in the harsh light of a Sunday morning phone call from her friend, be re-narrating the night into something acceptable. It was a joke, Mayor. You know it was a joke. Adrian's just being sensitive. Give him a day, he'll come around. That was the chorus that was assembling itself out there in the world, and I would not be able to stop it. And the realization that I would not be able to stop it was surprisingly fine. It was fine. Let them assemble it. The whole point of moving out at 4 in the morning was that I no longer required their version of the story to be accurate. I put the phone face down on the desk. I lay back down on the bed. I slept for 11 hours. The first week, I let the mediator handle it. Frances Odieno was a woman in her 60s with extremely short gray hair and the kind of stillness about her that I imagine in old judges. I had used her once before, professionally, for client matter, and I had remembered her name. She agreed to take the case on a Monday morning intake call, and she asked me, before anything else, whether there had been any physical violence. I said no. She asked whether there were children or shared pets. I said no to both. She asked whether I felt safe. I said I did. She said good, and I felt absurdly like I had passed some kind of test. Frances reached out to Meredith on Monday afternoon. By Monday evening, Meredith had called me 11 times. By Tuesday, the calls had stopped and the campaign had begun. I learned about the campaign through small leakages. A text from Tom, well-meaning, that read, hey man, can we talk? Mayor's pretty torn up. A text from my sister who had heard from a cousin, who had heard from someone in Meredith's office. A voicemail from a college friend I had not spoken to in 8 months, suddenly and urgently reaching out to check in. A long, careful email from Karen herself, which I read once and did not respond to. Karen's email said, in essence, Adrian, I love you both. I think you might be making a rash decision based on a misunderstanding. Meredith feels terrible. She told me she had no idea things had gotten so bad. Surely after all this time, you owe each other a real conversation. At least come over for coffee with the 4 of us. Tom misses you. All this time, I thought. It is a phrase that does a lot of work. All this time, as if duration were a debt, as if I had taken out a loan against the years and was now being asked to repay it with my continued presence, regardless of what the years had actually contained. I did not reply to Karen. I did, however, reply to Tom. I wrote, Tom, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm not going to be discussing this with you, but I want you to know there's no hard feelings. Take care of yourself. He wrote back almost immediately. Come on, man, don't be like this. I did not reply to Tom again. By Wednesday, Meredith had cycled through her playbook twice. There was the apology track. There was the accusation track. There was the I'm worried about you track, in which she expressed concern to mutual friends that I might be having a mental health crisis. There was the he was always like this track, in which she retroactively located the seed of my instability in some misremembered episode from earlier in our relationship, so that the people hearing about it now could nod and say, oh, yes, I always thought there was something off about him. I knew about the tracks because Frances told me. Frances did not gossip. Frances was clinical. She would call once a day at 4 in the afternoon, and she would say, I had a 40-minute call with Ms. Holloway today. Here is what was discussed. Here are the items I need from you. Here is the next step. And in the course of those updates, she would very evenly describe what Meredith had said about me and I would listen, and I would not feel much of anything except a kind of detached interest, the way you might listen to the weather report for a city you used to live in. On Wednesday, Frances said, "Miss Holloway has asked whether you would be open to a conversation with her in my office, mediated, before we proceed to the asset discussion." "No," I said. "She's been very persistent on this point." "I understand. May I ask your reasoning? It can help me frame the response." I thought about it. I was sitting at the desk in the short-term apartment, looking at the side of the other building. There were 3 pigeons on a windowsill across the way, doing the thing pigeons do, which is mostly sitting and occasionally moving an inch. "My reasoning is that she's not asking for a conversation," I said. "She's asking for a chance to manage me. I'm not available to be managed." Frances was quiet for a moment. "That's a clear answer," she said. "I'll communicate that we are not opening dialogue at this time, and will proceed through the office." "Thank you." "Adrian." "Yes. You're handling this well." "That's not flattery. That's an observation. Most of my clients are a mess at this stage." "I had a lot of advance notice," I said. "I just didn't know it." She made a small HM sound. "That's also a clear answer." Thursday was when she came to the building. I had been careful about the address. Frances had it. My mother had it. My direct supervisor had it, because I had updated my HR file. Nobody else. Meredith should not have had it. But she had been with me for years, and people who have been with you for years have access to the small data that can rebuild a life from scratch. The coworker who had recommended the building. The credit card autopay setting she might have glimpsed over my shoulder during the brief overlap between when I had signed the lease and when I had left. The fact that I drive a fairly recognizable car, parked now in a fairly small surface lot off the side of the building. The buzzer when it's 6:40 in the evening and the screen showed her face and she said, into the little speaker, "Adrian. Adrian, please. Just 5 minutes. Just open the door." I had been chopping an onion. I set down the knife. I looked at the screen. She looked terrible. That was the first thing I noticed. Not theatrically terrible, the way she did when she was performing distress. Genuinely terrible. The kind of terrible that comes from not sleeping for several days and then trying to put on makeup over the not sleeping. She had dressed up. She had dressed up to come and stand at my buzzer. She was wearing the navy dress I had always liked. Tactical, I noted. Always tactical. But also, and this was the part one had to be honest with myself about, also probably in real pain. The two things could be true at once. She could be hurting and also be deploying that hurt strategically. I had spent years allowing one of those truths to cancel out the other. I had thought that her real feelings, when I could detect them, somehow excused the strategy. I had thought that detecting the strategy meant I was being uncharitable about the feelings. I no longer thought that. I pressed the talk button. "I'm coming down," I said. I did not invite her up. I had read enough about these scenarios in the week since I had left to know not to invite her up. I had read enough, in fact, to know not to meet her at all. The advice from every reasonable source was, do not engage. Let the mediator handle it. But there was a part of me, a smaller part than I would have guessed, but a real part, that wanted to be in front of her just once after the switch had flipped. I wanted to know what it felt like to be in the same room as her without the old machinery running. I wanted to test myself. 5 minutes, I thought, going down in the elevator. You give her 5 minutes on the sidewalk. You say what you need to say, and you come back upstairs. The lobby door whooshed shut behind me. She was standing under the awning. It had started, very lightly, to rain. "Adrian," she said. "Mayor." She had not been expecting that. The casualness of a mayor, I think. She had been expecting something colder. "I just wanted to see you," she said. "I know. You're not. You're not even going to let me in?" "No. Out here. Out here is fine." She gathered herself. I watched her gather herself. I had seen her do it many times before, the small, visible recompose, the way she would tuck her hair behind her ear when she was about to switch modes. I knew which mode was coming. "Look," she said. "I know I'm not. I know I haven't been," her voice caught. The catch was real. I have not been the partner you deserved. Okay, I'm saying it. I'm saying it out loud. You deserved more than what I was giving. The thing at Karen's, the man-up thing. Adrian, I have replayed that night 1,000 times. 1,000 times. I should never have said that. I know how much you carry. I know how much you don't tell me. And I shut you down. In front of our friends. I shut you down. She was crying a little. Real tears, I thought. Not the showy kind. "I don't want to lose this," she said. "I don't want to lose you. I will go to therapy. I will go to couples therapy. I will go to individual therapy. I will do whatever you need me to do. We have a life, Adrian. We have years." There it is, I thought. All this time. We have years. I looked at her. I waited until she had wound down. The rain was picking up, just barely, the kind of mist that you could feel on your face before you could see it falling. Her hair was getting damp. The navy dress was going to get spotted if we stayed out much longer. I thought about how much I want to say to her. I thought about the dinner party 2 summers ago, in her cousin's bar, and the night with her mother, and all 12, all 15, all however many times. I thought about how I had carried each one of them home alone, neatly folded, like a man pocketing his own coins after losing every hand at the table. I thought about how she had used the word babe like a leash. I thought about Karen's email and Tom's text and the apparatus of all this time. I thought about how, even now, she had not really said, "I'm sorry I hurt you." She had said, "I'm sorry I haven't been the partner you deserved," which is a sentence about her, not about me. I could have said all of that. There was a version of this conversation where I said all of it, and I had a small, vivid fantasy of saying all of it, of finally laying out the receipts. But the receipts would not convince her. The receipts had never been the issue. She had been present for every one of those moments. She did not need to be reminded of them. She needed me to agree that they did not matter, and I was not going to agree to that. And so there was no version of this conversation that ended with the two of us understanding each other. There was only the version where I gave her enough material to keep fighting, or the version where I did not. I chose the version where I did not. "Mayor," I said. I said it gently. I spent a long time trying to be enough for someone who didn't respect me. I'm not going to audition for your affection anymore. That's the whole of it. That's all there is. She stared at me. "Adrian, you don't owe me an answer. I'm not asking for one. I'm telling you what I know. I know it now. I didn't know it last week. I know it now. That is so unfair. It might be. I'm not going to argue about it. You're not even going to fight for her." "No." She took a step toward me. I did not step back. I did not need to. There was no version of her stepping toward me that was going to change anything, and I think she felt that because she stopped. "You're a different person," she said, quietly, almost wondering. "You're acting like a different person." "I think I'm acting like the same person," I said. "I'm just not editing for you." She flinched. It was a small flinch, the kind I would once have apologized for causing. I did not apologize. "Frances will be in touch about the lease and the deposit," I said. "I've already given her the file. It'll be clean. There's nothing to fight about. I don't want anything that isn't already mine." "You're being so cold." "I'm being clear. I know they feel the same from where you're standing." She let out a sound that was half a laugh and half something else. She wiped her face with the back of her hand, and the makeup smeared a little. "Karen said you'd come around. Karen was wrong." Tom said, "Mayor," still gentle, still the same voice. "I'm not interested in what Tom said. I'm not going to be persuaded by a committee. Please don't come here again. If you do, I won't come down. If you call, I won't answer. Everything else goes through Frances. I wish you well. I mean that. Take care of yourself." I turned and walked back toward the lobby door. "Adrian." I did not stop. but I did not hurry. I scanned my fob. The door clicked. Adrian. I let the door shut behind me. In the elevator, going up, I watched my reflection in the brushed steel of the panel. I thought, like a man who had just done a hard thing without breaking. There was a faint flush on my neck, the kind that comes from adrenaline. My hands were not shaking, but they were warm. My heart rate was elevated but not racing. I had not raised my voice. I had not pleaded. I had not threatened. I had not begged her to understand. I had not justified. I had simply, finally, declined to participate. The elevator opened on the 4th floor. I went back to my apartment. The onion was where I had left it on the cutting board, half chopped, going slowly translucent at the edges. I picked up the knife. I finished the onion. I made dinner. My phone on the counter lit up twice while I was cooking. 2 texts from her. I could see the preview on the lock screen. And then it lit up a 3rd time and a 4th. And then I turned it face down without reading any of them. And I put on music and I ate dinner standing up at the kitchen island, looking out at the building across the alley where the pigeons have been replaced now by the long blue light of someone's television. I thought for a moment about whether I would regret this, whether in 6 months, in a year, I would look back and think I overreacted. It was just a joke. We had a life. I threw it away. The honest answer was probably not. But even if I did, even if I woke up at 3 in the morning some Tuesday and thought, what have I done? That future regret would not be evidence that I was wrong now. That regret would only be evidence that being alone, after a long time of being with someone, is sometimes difficult, and that the brain looks for any old reason to reach back toward the familiar. The regret, if it came, would not be wisdom. It would be muscle memory. I knew the difference now. I knew, sitting in that kitchen, eating that perfectly fine pasta, that the woman downstairs in the navy dress had told me who she was slowly in 100 small ways, over 100 small dinners, and I had heard her even when I had been pretending I hadn't. The dinner at Karen and Tom's hadn't been a revelation. It had been a receipt, finally, that I had decided to read. I rinsed the plate. I put it in the drying rack. I picked up the phone, and without reading the new messages, I went into the settings and I blocked her number. Then I opened the social apps, one by one, and I blocked her there too, and I muted the mutual friends I knew would carry messages, and I unfollowed Karen and Tom, not unkindly, just cleanly, the way you put away a tool you're done using. When I was finished, I plugged the phone into the charger by the bed, and I went and stood at the window and looked at the rain. It was really coming down now. The kind of soft, steady rain that doesn't make any noise on the glass, just blurs the lights of the city into long, bright streaks. I stood there for a while. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel sad exactly either. I felt mostly like a man who had been holding his breath for a long time and had finally, surprising himself, exhaled. The apartment behind me was very quiet. It was the kind of quiet I had forgotten existed. No one in this apartment was about to laugh at me. No one was about to tell me to man up. No one was monitoring my face for signs of inconvenient feeling. The only person in this apartment was me, and I realized, perfectly good company. I turned off the kitchen light. I went to bed. I slept again for a very long time.
Thanks for listening.